I often find myself thinking about the expectations that surround me, especially those that come from the people I love most. Lately, my father has been speaking more openly about his hope that I will settle down soon, and even though I know his intentions come from a place of love, it can feel like a weight I am not yet prepared to carry. Every time marriage comes up in conversation, I feel an invisible pressure grow heavier on my shoulders. I see the way he looks at me, almost searching for signs that I'm ready to take that next step, and even though I try to stay composed, inside I feel a mixture of anxiety and uncertainty. I understand his desire to see me build a family of my own, but I wish he could understand that timing means everything, and right now I am still finding my path. There are moments when I sit quietly, reflecting on what I want my future to look like. I imagine the kind of partner who would stand beside me, someone who shares not only similar values but also a genuine desire to grow together. I imagine a relationship where trust and understanding form the foundation, where we encourage one another to become better versions of ourselves. But imagining these things doesn't mean I am ready to rush into them. I feel a strong need to achieve certain things on my own first, to grow into a person capable of choosing love with clarity and confidence. I want to invest time in my own goals, my studies, my responsibilities, and the aspects of life that shape me into who I wish to become. Sometimes, I worry that my father sees my hesitation as reluctance or dismissal of his hopes, when in truth, I cherish the values he's instilled in me. I value family immensely. I value loyalty, connection, and the idea of building something meaningful with another person. But I also know that marriage is a commitment that deserves time, reflection, and maturity. I want to feel fully prepared before stepping into something so life-changing. It's not a matter of rejecting my father's timeline, it's simply a matter of finding my own. There are days when I wish we could have a long, open conversation, not one shaped by expectations, but one shaped by honesty. I want to explain how overwhelmed I sometimes feel, how much I appreciate his guidance, and how much I hope he can trust me to know when the moment is right. I want him to see that I am not trying to delay my future or drift away from tradition. I am simply trying to find a way to honor both his wishes and my inner voice. I want him to understand that love, for me, is not something to be hurried. It should come naturally, gently, when both hearts are ready for it. I look around at people my age, at friends who are exploring life at their own pace, taking time to understand themselves before choosing someone else. I admire their courage to wait until they feel truly grounded. Their journeys remind me that there is no universal timeline, no single definition of the right moment. Everyone discovers love differently, and I hope my father can realize that my journey may not mirror his, or anyone else's. My desire is to find a partner who sees me for who I am, someone who values respect, kindness, and sincerity. And when that moment comes, I want it to feel right, not forced, not rushed, but meaningful and genuine. I find myself imagining conversations where I tell my father that my hesitation isn't a rejection of our traditions, but an effort to honor them more deeply. I want to build a marriage that lasts, one that grows from mutual commitment and understanding. To do that, I need time to explore who I am and what I truly desire in a partner. I hope he can recognize that my reflections come from a place of love, not rebellion. Even though my path may differ from the one he envisioned, I want him to know that I carry his teachings with me always. Sometimes, I worry about the effect these expectations might have on our relationship. I never want him to feel dismissed or unheard. I know he wants the best for me, and I never want him to think I am turning my back on the values he holds dear. But I also need space to breathe, to grow, to reach a place where I can meet love with a full and open heart. I hope he can see that taking my time does not mean I am avoiding the idea of marriage. It means I am approaching it with the seriousness it deserves. The more I reflect, the more I understand how essential patience is, both for him and for myself. Marriage is not a milestone that should be approached because of pressure or expectation. It deserves thought, care, and emotional clarity. I want my father to know that I am not closing the door on love. I am simply waiting until I can walk through it without doubts clouding my steps. If he could understand how important this is to me, I believe it would strengthen our bond rather than strain it. I find myself imagining moments where I share more of my inner world with him. My fears, my hopes, the dreams I'm still shaping. I want him to see that every decision I make is guided not by avoidance but by a desire to create a life that feels true to who I am. If I can find the courage to open my heart to him, perhaps he will see that our journeys are not in conflict. They are simply different paths leading toward the same intention, a future built on love, stability, and understanding. Even though there are times when expectations feel overwhelming, I am learning that communication is the only way to bridge the gap, and I hope that, slowly, we can create a space where we listen to each other with empathy. My greatest wish is that he will one day look at me and feel proud. Not because I followed a specific timeline, but because I stayed true to myself and still honored the values he taught me. As I continue reflecting on all of this, I feel a growing sense of clarity. I know I need time to discover who I am becoming, time to embrace my responsibilities, time to understand love in its truest form. And I hope that with patience and trust, my father will come to see that this time is not wasted. It is preparation, it is growth, it is the foundation for the life I hope to build one day, a life rooted in sincerity and genuine affection. There are evenings when I sit alone with my thoughts, trying to understand the balance between my father's hopes and my own aspirations. I remind myself that his intentions come from a place of care, but I cannot ignore the quiet voice inside me that whispers that I still have so much to learn before embracing a responsibility as profound as marriage. When I imagine stepping into that chapter of life, I want to feel ready, not because someone else believes the moment has arrived, but because I can feel it within myself with clarity and certainty. The truth is that my heart is still learning, still growing, still discovering what it means to love wholeheartedly and build a future based on trust and loyalty. I think about the many responsibilities I carry, about the expectations placed upon me by tradition, by society, by family. At times it is easy to feel lost in all the noise, unsure of whether my decisions are truly my own. That is why finding my inner voice has become so important to me. I want to understand myself deeply before sharing my life with someone else. I want to have confidence not only in the person I choose as a partner, but also in the version of myself I bring into that commitment. To do that, I need room to breathe, to reflect, to grow without feeling like time is slipping away. There are moments when I try to imagine explaining all of this to my father. I picture us sitting together, sharing a quiet conversation where I can speak from the heart, where he listens without judgment or worry. I want to tell him that my hesitation is not defiance. It is a desire to honor the meaning of marriage rather than reduce it to a deadline. I want him to know that I am not rejecting the values he treasures. I am trying to uphold them more sincerely. His vision of a strong, loving family is something I admire deeply, and I want to achieve that in my own time, when I feel prepared to give myself fully to another person. Sometimes I wonder whether he realizes how carefully I think about these things. When he mentions marriage casually in conversation, I feel myself tense, as though he is checking to see whether I am nearing readiness. He may not know how much those moments linger with me afterward. They make me question whether I am disappointing him, whether my journey seems too slow or uncertain from his perspective. But then I remind myself that the most meaningful decisions are the ones made with intention, not haste. Choosing a partner is not something to rush simply because others believe the moment is right. As I look at couples around me, I notice how different their paths are. Some fall in love quickly, some take years to find the right person, and others discover love after long seasons of searching. Seeing this variety reassures me that there is no perfect path, no predetermined moment when love is supposed to arrive. I want to give myself permission to follow my own rhythm without feeling guilty for not matching someone else's timeline. I hope my father can come to understand that my journey is not delayed. It is simply unfolding in its own way, one that will allow me to build something lasting when the time comes. I also think about the conversations I've had with friends, people who support me and remind me that there is strength in choosing what feels right for yourself. Their understanding brings me comfort. When they share their own experiences with expectations and pressure, I feel less alone. It helps to know that others are also navigating the delicate balance between honoring family values and following their own hearts. These discussions have taught me that love cannot be forced into existence. It must be nurtured naturally, with patience, vulnerability, and authenticity. And when I eventually choose my partner, I want that relationship to reflect all of those qualities. As I consider my own hopes, I realize how important it is for me to remain patient with myself. There are days when I feel confident and grounded in my decisions, and others when guilt tries to pull me back into doubt. But I am learning to be gentle with myself, to trust that I am moving at the pace I need to grow into the person I want to become. Marriage, to me, is not simply the next step in life. It is a commitment that shapes the future in profound and lasting ways. If I am to honor that commitment fully, I must enter it with a heart that is steady and sure. I imagine one day telling my father that everything I am doing now, every moment I spend understanding myself, every reflection I make about love, is not an avoidance of my responsibilities but preparation for them. I want him to see that my careful approach is a sign of respect, not resistance. I want him to believe in my ability to make decisions that align with the values he has instilled in me. Even if he doesn't fully understand right away, I hope he will trust that my intentions are sincere. There have been times when I worried that taking things slowly might create distance between us, as though my pace might be misinterpreted as uncertainty about the importance of family. But now I realize that the only way to avoid misunderstanding is through openness. If I share my feelings honestly, he may come to see that our goals are not different after all. We both want a future where love, respect, and unity shape the relationships we build. The only difference is that I need a bit more time to reach that point. When I reflect deeper, I see how much I've learned about myself in this process. I've begun to recognize the qualities that matter most to me in a partner. Kindness that feels genuine, patience that allows space for growth, a sense of purpose that aligns with my own values. I imagine someone who encourages me to be myself, who understands the responsibilities I carry, and who approaches life with thoughtfulness and calm. Recognizing these qualities helps me feel more certain that waiting is the right choice. Rushing into something without knowing who I am or what I truly want would only create confusion later, and I want my future marriage to be built on clarity, not compromise. I hope that when my father sees the person I eventually choose, he will realize that every moment of patience was worthwhile. I hope he will see that I approached this decision with care, not because I doubted his guidance, but because I wanted to honor the seriousness of the commitment. And I hope that in time, he will feel proud not only of the partner I choose, but also of the person I have grown into along the way. There is a quiet optimism within me that grows stronger with each passing day. I know the future holds challenges I cannot predict, but I also know that trust, communication, and love will help me navigate them. And I believe that by staying true to myself, I will one day build a marriage that reflects everything I value: respect, sincerity, and unbreakable loyalty. I hope my father will stand beside me through that journey, not as someone who dictates the timeline, but as someone who supports me as I take each step with intention and heart. As the days pass, I find myself growing more aware of how important it is to build understanding between my father and me. Even though our perspectives may not always align perfectly, the love we share gives me hope that we can meet somewhere in the middle. I want him to see that my thoughts about marriage come from a place of deep consideration. I want him to know that I am not trying to distance myself from the life he imagines for me. Instead, I'm trying to approach it truthfully, making sure that the choices I make carry meaning beyond expectations. I believe that if he could see how seriously I think about this, he might understand the importance of giving me space to grow into this decision at my own pace. In quiet moments, I remind myself that nothing worthwhile is built in haste. Relationships take patience, understanding, and emotional readiness. I imagine a future where the person standing beside me is someone who complements my strengths and accepts my weaknesses with grace. Someone who understands the weight of responsibility that surrounds me and chooses to walk beside me regardless. When I think of a marriage built on such trust and unity, I realize how important it is not to rush into anything. A foundation that's strong deserves thought, reflection, and time. There are times when I wish I could simply put my feelings into words for my father without fear of disappointing him. Sometimes I imagine myself telling him how much I admire the life he has built, how much I respect the values he holds, and how much I want my future to reflect those same principles. But I want to arrive there when I feel ready, not when I feel pressured. It is difficult to speak honestly about these matters because I know how dearly he hopes to see me settled, secure, and loved. I want to fulfill those hopes, but I also want him to trust that I will make thoughtful, deliberate choices along the way. As I continue to reflect, I realize that growing up means not only knowing what you want but also being brave enough to express it. For so long, I believed that staying quiet was easier than confronting uncomfortable conversations. But silence can create distance, and I want to build closeness instead. I want my father to see that I am not shutting him out. I am trying to include him in my journey in a way that feels authentic to who I am becoming. I know that if I can share my concerns openly, it might strengthen our bond rather than weaken it. There are moments when I imagine a future conversation where I finally open my heart completely, explaining that my desire to wait is not a reflection of fear, but a reflection of what I value most. I would tell him that I want my marriage to be a partnership, not simply an expectation fulfilled. I would tell him that I want to enter that chapter of my life with certainty and readiness, not with anxiety or hesitation. I hope that when that day comes, he will see my sincerity and realize that my intention is not to resist tradition but to honor it in a thoughtful and meaningful way. I find that the more I think about love and commitment, the more I understand the importance of emotional maturity. When I imagine building a life with someone, I want us both to be capable of supporting each other through challenges, celebrating each other's victories, and facing the world with shared strength. I want to be ready not only for the beautiful moments but also for the difficult ones. And readiness comes from growth, patience, and time spent understanding oneself. These are things I cannot rush, no matter how strongly my father hopes to see me take that next step. Sometimes I worry that my father views my careful approach as avoidance, but I am learning that this is simply part of my journey toward becoming the person I am meant to be. I hope he can understand that I want to stand confidently in my choices. When I eventually meet the person who feels right for me, I want to know that I chose them intentionally, not because I felt pressured or rushed. If I can look back someday knowing that I waited for a love that felt genuine, patient, and kind, I will feel proud of the path I took. There are days when I seek comfort from people who understand me well. Friends who listen without judgment, who share their own experiences with family expectations, who remind me that I am not alone. Their words help me stay grounded when doubts creep in. Through them, I have learned that many people struggle with similar pressures. Different details, but similar feelings. Hearing their stories gives me strength, and it reassures me that taking my time is not wrong. It is simply my way of honoring both myself and the life I hope to build. When I step back and look at the bigger picture, I realize how important it is to treat myself with compassion. I am learning to embrace the fact that I cannot control everything, and I cannot follow a path simply because someone else believes it is the right time. I have to trust my own heart. I am learning to let go of the guilt that whispers that I am disappointing my father by not moving quickly enough. Instead, I remind myself that being true to who I am is not an act of disobedience. It is an act of self-respect. It is the way I honor my future, even if it means waiting a little longer to reach it. There is something empowering about recognizing the importance of self-awareness. I am beginning to understand myself more each day, my strengths, my fears, my hopes. With each realization, I feel more prepared to make decisions that truly reflect who I am. This process is not always easy, but it is necessary. I want to walk into my future with intention, not uncertainty. And I believe that when my father sees the maturity behind my decisions, he will come to understand the path I have chosen. As I think more deeply about these things, I find myself imagining the day when I finally share my life with someone. I picture a partner who stands beside me not because of expectation, but because of choice, someone who values honesty, compassion, and mutual respect. I imagine us facing challenges together, supporting one another, and building a life rooted in shared trust. Knowing that this is what I truly want reinforces my belief that waiting is not a sign of hesitation but a sign of hope. I want to enter that chapter with an open heart and a clear mind. I know my father may need time to understand my perspective. Change can be difficult, especially when it challenges long-held expectations. But I want to believe that with patience and open conversations, we can bridge the gap between his hopes and my own path. I hope that as he watches me grow, he will see that my choices are guided not by rebellion but by reflection. I want him to see that the life I envision is one inspired by his values, even if the timing is different from what he expected. There is a quiet reassurance that settles within me whenever I think about the strength of our bond. Even if we disagree at times, I know that our relationship is rooted in love. It is that love that gives me the courage to trust that we will eventually understand each other more fully. I believe that one day, we will look back on this phase, he with understanding and me with gratitude for the lessons I learned along the way. As I envision my future, I feel hopeful. I imagine a life where love grows naturally, where choices are made with thoughtfulness, and where I look back with pride at the patience I allowed myself. I want my father to be part of that future with an open heart. I want him to share in my happiness, knowing that every step I took was made with sincerity, and even if our journeys differ for a while, I know that love will bring our paths together again. In the end, I believe that finding balance between honoring his expectations and following my own voice is possible. It may take time, it may take many conversations, but it is achievable. I want him to see that I am committed to building a meaningful life, and that when I choose to marry, it will be a decision made with complete devotion. I want him to trust that I am not avoiding responsibility. I am preparing for it thoughtfully, intentionally, and with a heart that understands the significance of the commitment ahead. As I move forward, I carry hope with me. Hope that my father will understand. Hope that love will come when it is meant to. Hope that by being honest with myself, I will build a future that reflects everything I value. And hope that in the end, he will be proud of the choices I make, not because they match his timeline, but because they reflect the person I have become. I want him to see that the love and guidance he has given me are the very reasons I strive to choose my path with care. And when the time comes, I know that I will step into that chapter with confidence, with joy, and with a heart fully ready to embrace the life that awaits me.